Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapklis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo Plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Yo, what's happening, my friends? Welcome to the Just Grow podcast. So pumped to have you here. My name is Nico Rapklis. If you are new around these parts, I'm excited for this particular episode of the Just Grow podcast. I am going to be having a conversation with a friend and client, Nelson Brooks. He's the founder of Cabana Boys, where they merge party, entertainment, fun with high-quality customer experience. It's a really genius business model that he pioneered, didn't model after everyone, and I know how challenging that can be. So it's a really cool interview through his thought processes and how he really came against this model and blew it up. So it's an exciting interview. You're going to get into the mind of a high-level entrepreneur that really thinks outside the box. So before we do jump into that, I want to let you know about our next Just Grow Podcast live event. It's going to be on May 11th at 4:30 p.m. That's a Saturday. So if you want to go learn all about that, it's going to be a remarkable episode. It's going to be with my good friend Akshay Nanavati. Quick clip on him is that he is going to go be the first person to traverse Antarctica coast to coast, cross-country skiing, dragging a 400-pound sled, 110 days, 1,700 miles, all while it's just daytime the entire time. It's crazy stuff. And we're going to go deep into how he's become one of the most magnetic entrepreneurs that I've ever met in terms of raising capital, in terms of building high-value networks, in terms of having a bulletproof mindset. So again, if you want to learn more about that and you'd like to join us here in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona on May 11th at 4:30 p.m., head on over to justgrowpodcast.com. All the links will be down in the video description. But without further ado, let's jump into this interview with Nelson Brooks.
Dude, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's great to be. It is full circle. So when you reached out and you're like, hey, let's do an exchange, I sat with it for a second, but then I realized, like, especially even through this conversation we just had as you came in here, it's kind of a cool full circle moment.
100%.
Because we met at AZ Entrepreneurs. Josh Norris, shout out Josh Norris, introduced us. Right. He's a legend. Yeah. I just saw him recently.
Really? Is he doing good? I know he had some health issues, but
yeah, he had a heart transplant.
I know. It's crazy.
Wild. You should talk to him if you have time. But anyways, point being is you became a client. We made your vision audio, so Thank you for putting your trust in us on that.
Absolutely.
And
I love it. Still listen to it 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Yeah. So I know, like, a lot of times we talk about people's stories, how they got to where they are. I know you have a cool entrepreneurship journey. You've obviously shared a lot with me, but I'd also love to talk about your brand and what you've been doing, because you've done some impressive things with Cabana Boys. You're launching a new brand as well, and I think you've kind of just done things a little bit differently. So I'd love to hear, like, all the things, and I'd love to hear a lot of the challenges that came with it too. That's what I like to highlight, is not necessarily just like the sunshine and rainbows, but like, what is the true story of your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, so I guess kind of starting at the beginning, I went to college for business, and I've always kind of like had this entrepreneurial spirit. I started my career in wine and spirit sales, which is a total grind. Like, wake up at 4:30 every morning. Your customers are grocery store clerks and inventory people, and I learned a lot through that, just like how to interact with different personalities. But then transitioned to software sales. Worked for Oracle, huge, massive
company.
A little
bit of a shift.
Yeah, right. And that's also a total grind, but in a much different way. You're selling this like database license, so you're not really selling a thing. You're selling the right to use a thing. And a lot of times people will like either not answer the phone or hang up immediately. So it's just a lot of cold calling and just was challenging for sure, but that kind of hardens you a little bit.
Sure.
And when I was at Oracle, and I worked for a couple other software companies too after that, I always kind of had like one toe or foot out the door. And I'm glad that I don't have a boss now that would like get mad at me for saying that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think that like I felt like I was kind of destined for something better than that. Not a knock on software sales, but it just wasn't really like a long-term plan for me.
Yeah.
So I started a company when I lived in Austin called Life Events, ATX.
Okay.
And I basically just like planned charity events and birthdays and the small social gatherings. Some of them for my friends, some of them as like events that I planned myself and sold tickets for. And I just like loved creating memories for people. I love like getting people together and having fun and celebrating whatever it is, you know, holiday or, you know, birthday or whatever. And it was never like, I never really made money on it. It was just like for fun, basically.
Sure.
And as I started to kind of get that business going a little bit, I was like, oh, maybe I could like do this and actually make money. And I started to like see if I could get some external customers, like people I didn't know. And that was like next to impossible. Event planning is like a really challenging industry. There's so many moving parts. There's so much like relationship building, and so very much referral based. So I was like, okay, maybe this is not for me right now. And then I eventually ended up moving back here to Arizona. When I was selling wine, I was in Scottsdale, went to Texas, and then moved back.
Gotcha.
And was selling software, got laid off right at the start of COVID because the software company I was working for was a hospitality software. And with the world shutting down, like, you know, they didn't have a position for me anymore.
Right.
So I had probably like a 3 to 4 month span where I was just not working and just kind of hanging out. I was applying to, I kept track. I think I applied to like 450 places, and I got like 5 to 10 interviews and landed one job. I worked at another software company. It was actually a media company called Axios.
Okay.
Some people may have heard of it. But in that interim, between getting laid off and getting a new full-time job, I was, again, it's COVID, invited to a bachelorette party. And my friends from Texas were in town, and they're like, hey, like, you want to come hang out at our pool, or just bars are closed, do you want to come kick it? And I was like, there's 15 cute girls there? Yes, I'm on my way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I brought one of my buddies with me, and there was
good ratios.
Right. There's 2 other guys there that were friends of friends of the maid of honor, and she had paid them $50 just to hang out and serve drinks. And they're super nice guys, super friendly, and I was just like, this is like a really fun like idea.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a business for them, it was just like they were just friends. And I was like hungover in bed the next morning and like got on GoDaddy, bought the domain name,
Really?
Scottsdale Cabana Boys, and
Love that.
I never really thought it would be a big business. Some people are very intentional, and they're like, here's my business plan, here's, you know, my marketing plan, here's everything I'm going to do, I'm going to raise money, all that kind of stuff. That was not me. I started it, frankly, as a way to get paid to hang out with girls on the weekends. Still had my full-time job. Well, at the time I didn't, but eventually I had a full-time job. And I was like, this will be fun. You know, I was single, like, you know, this will be a good time. And the parties started to roll in, and that was 2020. We had 6 in 2020, 6 parties.
Yeah.
And then it just snowballed. Like, and now we're in 7 cities nationwide. We've probably done 3,500 parties total.
Wow.
Our peak, we had one weekend in Scottsdale. Cinco de Mayo last year, we had 54 parties in one weekend, just here. I think we had like 75 nationwide in one weekend.
Right.
And I met my wife doing this.
It's a while.
And yeah, I mean, it's just like been a total blur. Somebody was like, how long have you been doing this? I was like, thought about it, like almost 4 years, which time has just flown by. But I quit my full-time job, I think it was about a year and a half ago, roughly.
Wow.
So September of, what would that be, 22? So I've been doing this full time since then, and still trying to grow as much as possible.
Yeah.
Definitely still in growth mode. And, but to your point, like it's not all easy.
Right. Yeah, partying with hot women,
It's so hard. Yeah, I don't do the parties myself anymore,
Sure.
And I'm sure my wife would feel
probably good
different.
for the marriage.
Yeah. My wife would feel different about my involvement if I didn't own the company.
Yeah.
But it's because of the nature of our business. Like we've kind of struck this like weird sweet spot where we have bartenders who are just behind the bar, normal bartenders. And then you have strippers. And we're definitely not strippers, but we're also definitely not just normal bartenders either.
The fusion.
We're fun, we're flirty, we may take off our shirts, but that's it. That's where it stops. We keep it professional. And to me, like our value is like creating safe spaces for women to party where they don't have creepy dudes just like all over them that you might find at a bar. And so that's been really fun. But that has created some challenges where some customers interpret our services wrong and they think it's more than it is.
Oh, wow.
Which has been, unfortunate. We don't have a perfect hiring record where we have guys that are in it for the wrong reasons and they treat it like something different than it is. And we're pretty quick to hire, but we're also pretty quick to fire too.
Good.
We have a pretty strict code of conduct. And being an entrepreneur, like I was telling somebody this yesterday, like I don't have anybody to go to and say, hey, is this a good idea? Or hey, is this not? I do have a GM in each city, and they're kind of my resource for each of those cities, and they're definitely helpful. But as far as those big strategic decisions, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
Is this a good idea? I don't know.
Right.
Nelson is. But
I relate to that. I relate to a lot of that
Yeah.
on a few different levels. Is one, I think it's awesome that you kind of just had that inspiration and you went with it and it worked. And that just goes to show that you're in flow. Mm-hmm. I felt the same way with what we're doing is it just clicked right away, and then people started gravitating towards it, and I loved it. And so, it sounds like exactly what happened with you, and then it just snowballed from there. And then even to your point, that last point of you don't have anybody to go to because it's such a unique offer.
Yeah.
No one else is doing it, so you're not modeling anybody,
Right.
which is a great thing, and you're being innovative. But even some of the big business gurus will always say pioneers get scalped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not to say don't go for it.
Right.
Because basically what it is there's a bigger risk and there's a bigger reward. Mm-hmm. So I think whenever anybody is doing something for the first time, there's a lot of risk in it.
100%.
But again, there's a lot of reward.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to mention too is culture is imperative.
It's so important.
Sounds like you guys are locked in on your values and that kind of stuff, and hiring the right people because, yeah, dude, I think it's interesting. Partying's an interesting space.
It is.
I'm not really in it anymore at all. I quit drinking 3.5 years ago, for the most part. But things can get blurry when your mind gets blurry.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you said pioneers get scalped. I had two of my former employees start a competitor.
Really?
And it was, I'm not gonna blow up their spot right now and say who it is, but if you compare their brand versus ours, it's almost exactly the same. They provide the same service, same pricing, same thing. And there's room for a Coke and a Pepsi, right? But at the same time, it's man, just be a little bit more original, do something a little bit different. I'm not the first person to invent a male bartender.
Right.
But I am the first person to position it in the way that it's been positioned. and the branding and the marketing and all that kind of stuff is, I think, what's made us successful.
Well, let me ask you this question off of that is, I've thought about that too, of like, oh, I got this great idea, and then, inevitably it's business.
Right.
People are going to find out about it and they're going to try and copy it. And I heard a quote recently that said, it was back in the day, I forget exactly the year, but it was like, they had a group go to the Microsoft convention and then the same group go to the Apple convention. And they said that when they went to the Microsoft, I'm not sure if it's a convention, but just whatever it was. They said the people at Microsoft were busy studying Apple. The people at Apple were busy studying how can we help students learn and teachers teach.
Yeah.
And so I guess even the question, maybe a question to ask yourself, if you want to answer it right now, is like, how do you continue to separate yourself and continue to be at the top of the food chain? Because there's always going to be competitors.
Yep.
It's not easy when it's like people that you mentored or like you brought on and kind of like were under your wing. That doesn't feel good.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're always going to have competitors.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I have friends and family who, when they see a competitor or they see somebody I can partner with, they're very quick to reach out. They're like, hey, look out for this guy, or hey, have you thought about partnering with them, which I really appreciate. But as far as competitors go, like I don't want to ignore them. I think it's important to be aware of, other people in your industry, but I'm not spending all my time, looking at their social media posts and their website and like analyzing what they're doing to copy them. Like they're going to do their thing. Like I want to kind of stay in my own lane and focus on my customer and my employees and making my company a really great place to work. And hopefully that means employee retention and some loyalty. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is we keep track of where people have heard about us, in like booking form. How do you hear about us?
Yeah.
Our number one answer in the last 6 months is friend or family.
I had a feeling.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
It's not Google, it's not Instagram, it's friend or family.
Yep.
And that just speaks volumes on the experience that we provide.
Exactly.
And I just try to continue to innovate and continue to hire marketable people and really good people for our brand. And if other people do the same, more power to them. But I'm just going to try to do the best that I can and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, it's as the internet's evolved, I think a lot of people, and even myself included, because I got started my entrepreneur journey with internet marketing. I was making YouTube videos, then running Facebook and Instagram ads, and kind of almost took pride in the fact that I don't need to get referrals.
Yeah.
But my mindset shifted a little bit on that because I heard a quote recently, or I'm kind of paraphrasing, but if the only way that you could get another customer was from a referral, how would you treat that customer?
Yeah.
And I think that really just goes to show when you do have a heavy volume of referrals, that just goes to show that you do have an amazing company. And whenever you decide to really, I'm sure you do advertising as well, but that just shows that your advertising is going to go so much further.
Right.
Because even there's some gurus that flex about oh, we get a 27x ROAS, but they're including all the referrals in that the advertising brings because of the fact that once they become a customer, then they have such a great experience and they tell everyone that they know.
Right.
And that's when you can just scale to the moon.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's we operate under five different brands now.
Okay.
And so I'd love to see some more crossover between those brands. If someone's here in Scottsdale, the next time they go to a bachelorette party in Savannah, hopefully they'll hire us there. But what I try to really instill in my guys is this might be their third or fourth party that weekend. It's the customer's only party.
Right.
Maybe for the whole year, and for the bride, maybe her whole life. So focus on the customer, and the way to long-term growth is not selling more parties; it's customer satisfaction. I heard that recently in a video. I was this clicked instantly for me, and I shared it with the team. And I think as a business owner, you get myopic sometimes. You're okay, how can I book more? How can I sell more? How can I increase my prices and create more generate more revenue and, you know, earn more profit. And that's kind of like just a short-term thing. I think that's one of the problems with like the stock market and big corporations is they're catering to their shareholders and for quarterly dividends, and that's kind of it. You know, that's one reason Amazon has been so successful is they didn't really care about that initially. I'm sure they do now, but
Maybe a little bit.
yeah. But you know, back in the beginning, they're like, let's look at this long term, and I don't think we'll ever get to Amazon's scale, but you know, our vision is to be the national leader in the party hosting and bartending space. So I think we're building the foundation to get there.
How do you continue to maintain that vision and communicate that vision to your team? And then like, how do you make sure that you're good? Because it's like, you know, as you build a business, like there's a lot of moving pieces and it can get chaotic. Like, how do you make sure that you're good and like your nervous system is regulated and you're on point so that everything else can grow?
Well, going back to my earlier point about being an entrepreneur, it is lonely. Whether you're trying to get, you know, a business question answered or a strategic direction, you know, bounce an idea off someone else, like it's the positive things are all yours, but the negative things are all yours too.
Yeah.
And especially like my wife's a doctor, so I'm home alone all day by myself, and like I do miss going into an office, and I've thought about like getting a space here to like a co-working space where I can be around people. So there's that loneliness aspect to it, but also like I try to meditate as much as I can. I'm not great at it. It's hard, honestly. Honestly, your Vision Audio helps. There's been times where I'm like, God, I'm like freaking out about something, and I'm like so focused on this short-term, you know, small problem, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on the podcast. Like it has helped me like refocus and say, hey, like let's look at the bigger picture, or this is just a drop in the bucket. And just taking some deep breaths and just realize that like it's gonna be okay. I think as humans we're very wired to focus on the bad and the things that are going wrong. And as you know, a business owner, I have to like do a better job at focusing on the good and the milestones that we do hit, and relaying some of our, you know, good customer experience examples back to the team, and you know, really like building some positive reinforcement too. Will not just help my employees, but help myself too. It's like be more focused and recentered on how, you know, great it's been, and it's probably going to be too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that, man. And like, I think there's a really cool learning lesson on both sides here, because like you just even sharing that of like how the Vision Audio has helped you, that reminds me and reinforces me to be like, yes. Like just every time I hear one, I had one last night. We had a guy that actually created his second one. And he's like, both times, like I was in tears. And just to like hear that, I know that inherently, but like just that reminder, I was like, oh yeah, like what we're doing is sick. And I think like what you just said is like going through those reviews and seeing like the cool stories and reminding your team of that. I even heard recently like the best sales tool is to go back through testimonials. Like watch all your testimonials before you get on any type of sales call.
Yeah, I like that.
That'll create the conviction within you. And that was even going to be another question I had was, I imagine you have all sorts of crazy, wild, different types of stories and like quote unquote testimonials.
Yeah.
I mean, I could even think about how like this helps women in their marriage because they just had a proper send-off. Like, is there any story that really sticks out where you're like, damn, this is why we're doing what we're doing?
Yeah. It's hard to pinpoint one, but the bachelorette industry has just exploded in the last few years, and these girls are spending thousands of dollars on this weekend, and they're getting this incredible Airbnb, and they're getting it decorated, and they're going to Toca Madera, and like they're doing all these really cool things. And I consistently in our reviews see the Cabana Boys are the highlight of the weekend.
Wow.
And that's like, damn, like that's so cool. Because we're a premium service, so we, you know, it costs a decent amount for us, but we're not like the lion's share of the budget. And so for us to kind of outweigh, you know, how much they're spending versus what the highlight is really cool. You know, bachelorettes has definitely been our bread and butter, but we've done birthdays, we've done divorce parties, we've done, we've done a lot of different types of events that are all celebrations. You know, it's not just, usually not, sometimes it's been, but usually it's like some sort of, they're getting together to celebrate something, and just to hear that is just like, it's so cool. And that's, you know, it's kind of a not full circle, but maybe half circle moment for me, where at the beginning I wanted to just hang out with girls. Yeah. Now it's like I'm creating these really special moments for people. And I shared with you, like I met my wife doing this. Yeah. Like, so there's been so much that I've gotten out of this, that, you know, even if the business failed tomorrow, like I feel like I'd be happy with it.
Yeah. You know? And that was going to be the other thing I was going to say. Something that's dramatically helped me, a mentor of mine really reinforced this, was to hold a monthly milestone sheet. So usually on my phone, I'll just pull out a note and I'll do like, you know, February milestone, and I just do my best to like put everything on there.
That's cool.
And the small wins, the big wins, whether it's just like sitting down and having a conversation with a good friend or whatever it is, but it keeps me away from like feeling like I'm behind the 8 ball, where it's like, oh, all these other people are ahead of me, oh, I'm not far enough. Because like you said earlier, is, you know, our brains are hardwired to look at the challenges more so than the wins, because we're just programmed to survive. Like that's in our DNA. But yeah, that is wild how like it evolved.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Because like that was one other thing I was gonna say earlier, is like it could be, there's a heavy argument for this, but I think like everything that men do it's for women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
usually.
So it's interesting how like you're just like, yeah, I just want to have fun with cool girls and whatnot, and then all of a sudden it evolved into more, and it's probably going to even evolve into something even more that maybe you're not even aware of. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but like it's cool how things just evolve and go like, I'm curious. I've really been stepping much more into my faith and just like surrendering and just trusting that God's leading me in the right direction. Is that part of your life as well, where like you are just kind of saying, hey, I'm going to go with it and see what happens, or is it kind of like you just kind of holding the steering wheel?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not really religious myself. I was raised in a family where we went to church occasionally, and so I recognize there's something there, but I wouldn't call myself religious, more so spiritual. But one thing I've gotten into recently is Stoicism. And I actually was looking at Instagram this morning, and there's a decision tree. And the decision tree said, are you worried about something? And the answer is yes or no. And under the yes was, can you do something about it? And then yes or no. And the answer is no, then it says move on or something like that. And I've really tried to focus on that. I read a book called The Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday, fantastic book. It's like a daily devotional, but for Stoicism, not religion. My wife bought me Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, so I haven't broken into that yet. But I think that there's some being Stoic kind of gets a bad rap sometimes because people are just kind of deadpan. But as far as, I don't feel like I'm that way. It's more so like how my worldview, that I want to control what I can control in my business and in my life. But if something's outside of my control, just surrender. Like, I'm not gonna get upset about it. I'm not gonna, get bent out of shape because my dog pooped on the rug. Like, it's a dog, it sucks, but it's, I just have to move on. And that's really helped me kind of like keep some calm in those stressful moments where, if we have a bad situation at an event or an employee's not responding or whatever it is, like, can I go back and fix it? The answer is usually no. So like, try to rectify the situation with the customer and move on. And that's definitely, I'm not perfect, but it's definitely helped me a lot.
I think that's a great question. It's like, is there anything I can do about it?
Right.
Questions are amazing.
Yeah.
They're so good. Like, you can access parts of your subconscious mind just through questions. You just take a little question, then you ask another question. It's wild. But I think that's a great point, because I think if we really look at it, I'm just speaking from my perspective. When I'm getting upset about things and I'm like, I wanted to change things, it's usually on some level I'm probably thinking about this, oh, this shouldn't have happened. And if I just ask that question of like, well, is there anything I can do about it right now?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to, whatever the situation is, most of the times you can't go back and change it. But it's super, super important that you learn from it and you put in the processes and measures in place so it doesn't happen again. So in my business, if an employee is, I don't know, he did something wrong at a party, I can't go back and change what he did. It happened. But if it's severe enough, maybe that person's not on the team anymore. Or maybe I have to call the customer and like smooth things over and give them a refund or something like that. So as long as you're learning from it and you're not just saying, oh, well,
Sure.
that's the most important part for sure.
Yeah. And mistakes are just an opportunity for growth. And
Yeah.
the more that you can learn from your mistakes as well as other people's mistakes, it's just, you start optimizing your life
100%.
easier, quicker. I'm curious because you mentioned earlier about you're quick to hire, quick to fire. Would love to hear more about that. Like when stuff does arise, like are you pretty quick to just trust what the customer said and chop off the employee? How do you go about it?
It's a tough question. Being in 7 different cities in 6 different states, it's hard for me to know exactly what happened. I don't want to paint a picture like things go wrong all the time. Like most of the time things are great and we get that positive feedback, but we're not perfect. Like there have been instances where employees overstay their welcome or, maybe they drank with the customer and, things got out of hand, like whatever it might be. And unfortunately, we're in a service-based business, and so the customer is always right to an extent.
Yeah.
Where I try not to look at that one incident by itself. I try to look at the context of the whole situation, and in the employee's case, his or her whole tenure with me. I had a guy last week in Palm Springs. He no-showed to a party. He looked at the wrong date. He thought it was the next day, and he just didn't show up. And if that guy, had a track record of tardiness or, less than great reviews or whatever it might be, he probably would have gotten fired. But I looked at, and with my help from my GM there, this guy's been great. He's been reliable. He's been provided a good customer experience. Like he checks all the other boxes. This was just an honest mistake. And, we issue him a warning and, make those steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. But like people are human beings. Like we do run like a pretty tight ship here, but I also try to lead with some empathy too, where people make mistakes, and if it's something that's like not super detrimental to the business, like we can look at the whole context and make a decision from there. So, but with that said, like because of the nature of what we do, like our employees sign a code of conduct, and it's pretty clear on there, very clear on there, like, what offenses result in what consequences, and we just don't really have room for a lot of mistakes, especially because it's a special occasion. Like we don't want people to, have a bachelorette or God forbid a wedding or something like that where our guys don't show up, and that's probably our most common issue, is guys just being late or no showing. So we just try to instill in them that it's a special moment for the customer, focus on them.
Yeah, that's good. Because yeah, I mean, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I had someone sitting here and they were talking about how they don't necessarily believe in the whole concept of the customer's always right.
Really?
And it's almost kind of similar to what you're saying, is like more so just like look at the context and don't just like take one word and count that as truth.
It's hard because I'm not there and their manager's not there. It's hard for us to know exactly what happened, but to some degree perception is reality.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not like a big issue, but maybe the guy was like a little aloof, or he wasn't involved with the party as much as the customer wanted, or whatever it is. The customer may have overblown that or I should say blown it out of proportion and made it a bigger deal than it was. But my message to the employee is like, don't leave room for a gray area.
Yeah.
Go over and above and do an exceptional job, and the customer's not going to have a reason to even think to complain because you did such a great job. And that can be hard because that's more of a character thing, I think. That's not really a training thing.
Yeah.
So the customer is right, but I think with an asterisk.
Even like, I guess another thing that was kind of popping up as you were talking about that is, like you said, your business is very much in a gray area.
Yeah.
Because it's like dealing with, yes, partying and drinking, and that just kind of blurs lines as a whole. But I mean, I could imagine too that like a lot of these bachelorette parties, they're having such a great time with these guys that they're really enjoying it, and they want to continue that at times. And then if the customer or your employees are like having to maintain this code of conduct where this is just business, and then these girls are like, oh, but I like this guy, now it's dealing with like a rejection type of thing where they're like, no, I can't do it. And so I feel like that just combined with alcohol could just swirl in all sorts of emotions and make it complicated.
It does. I mean, we unfortunately have had to let go of people that like, they seem like great people and they just made like a bad mistake. And again, I think it's just kind of a character thing. It's hiring people that are in it for the right reasons. They understand it's a business and not a hobby. They want to have fun, but they also want to make money, and they want to keep making money in the future. And they're not just in it for one weekend, right? They want a job for months, But it's we have a policy where, to your point, like it is kind of a blurred line. When you have alcohol and girls and good-looking guys, like, it's fun. It's like it's kind of like a bar or a club situation, and there's hormones flowing and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But our guys know, like, when time's up, time's up. There has to be an hour break after the party before you see that person or customer again.
Oh, okay. So
you can do whatever you want on your own time. You are still a representative of the company, so be a good person.
Yeah.
But if you want to meet them in Old Town or in 6th Street in Austin or wherever, like go home, freshen up, and then meet them at the bar. And I met my wife doing this, so like if that tells you anything, so it's a fun part of the job for sure. But when you're on the clock, like you're doing your job. And that's part of my hiring process, it's part of the training process, part of the code of conduct. Like it's very important that we uphold that for customer experience reasons, but also professionalism and liability too.
Yeah. What would you like if you could have a conversation with Nelson that was just starting Cabana Boys, maybe even like just as he's laying in bed hungover on GoDaddy, like what would you say to him?
Oh man, get ready. Now somebody asked me, do I love what I do?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is yes. It's a resounding yes. Yeah. But I think that what I love about it is not that I'm helping people drink and party. It's that I'm building something. I love like just the entrepreneurship aspect of it.
Yeah.
And B, I'm creating memories for people, but because we are whether it be a bachelorette or birthday or any other celebration, that's a special moment in these people's lives. They usually have their closest friends with them. It's just like, it's a great thing that I feel honored that we're invited to be a part of that. Yeah. And so like, do I love making, or opening up White Claws for bachelorettes? Not so much. Like, it's not really like my thing, but I love the fact that like we are the highlight of the weekend. And so to answer your question, get ready, but also like enjoy it and like really try to stay centered on why you're doing this, that you are creating those memories for people, and that it's going to be a fun ride.
In terms of like business advice, what would you give? What would you tell them?
Yeah, just do it. Like, I know that's cliche, but ideas are a dime a dozen. And like I said before, like I didn't invent the concept of a male bartender, but I was, basically the first one to go full steam ahead at it. And so like whether it's Cabana Boys or, another idea, like you have to execute on it if you feel passionately about it. You would kick yourself if you're on your deathbed and you had this great idea and you didn't do something about it and you didn't go. I think that there's a lot of either current or blossoming entrepreneurs that have ideas. I've got 100 business ideas that I want to do, right? I don't really have the bandwidth to do them all, obviously, but I would love to do them because I feel like they're unique and they would work. So if I had more time, that I would. And I think there's a lot of people who have those ideas and they're either not sure where to start, or they think they don't have enough time, or they create another excuse for themselves. And so my advice to my past self and also any potential entrepreneur is like, you just got to go and create a partner network, create some resources for yourself that you can seek advice and hire good people, and it's more so about execution than anything.
Yeah, it's just what you said, is ideas are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great ideas, and I feel like new ideas are constantly coming to me. And,
Totally.
There's a lot of value in that, but what do they say? Like the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard?
Yeah.
Because so many people just die with their music inside of them.
I've never heard that. That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild. And I think for a long time, and there's still like, I've had plenty of ideas that I probably haven't executed on. I'm getting a lot better at executing on my ideas. I think another thing too is, what I found out is that I am much more of an idea guy. And have you read Rocket Fuel?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
The concept is pretty simple. It's just like Apple.
Okay.
Whereas like Steve Jobs was the visionary, Steve Wozniak was the integrator, the person that actually implemented all the ideas. And it's really important, and that's what they say, is for any company to have truly rocket fuel, they need to have both of those.
Interesting.
Because the visionary can't be the one that has the idea and then integrates, because then he loses his capabilities to like really continue to have those ideas.
Interesting.
And the integrator just doesn't have the ideas. They're the one that just like implements everything.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been helpful. My business partner is much more of an integrator.
Okay.
And so that's been helpful, because I noticed that like when I have ideas, I'm like, all right, let's put this in place.
Yeah.
And then I'm the one, and I have to go into it, and then I kind of start losing my gift.
I can relate to that a lot right now. Like there's a lot of like tech work and changing up our website and HR stuff that like I have this to-do list of the like big strategic things, like opening up a new market and new services and that kind of stuff that I just don't have the time for right now, because I am busy with, like I said, updating our website and those kind of more menial tasks.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an advantage to having a business partner for sure.
Are you solo, or you have a business partner?
Solo. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Have you ever played with the idea of getting a business partner?
I mean, I've thought about it. Nobody's ever approached me. I shouldn't say that. Two people have approached me, but it just hasn't been the right fit yet.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I struggle with too, is like is 100% mine, and I'm I'm so passionate about it.
Right.
And like instilling that same sense of urgency and passion and like go get itness in my employees, especially the managers, is a challenge. And I get it because like they're not full-time employees. Like I'm not paying them a massive salary. So like sometimes I have to like take a step back and remember that like this is not all of their life like it is mine.
Right.
And so I think in a business partner, I would have to find that, somebody who would want to go all in like I am, and it just hasn't been there yet.
Yeah, I get that, and I remember having a conversation with somebody on this podcast where he was talking about like business partnership, and he's like, no one's truly going to have the same enthusiasm and passion and energy behind it unless you give them a piece, which that still doesn't even guarantee it.
Right.
But I was just going to say, as you were talking, something that came to me is, it was probably, I want to say like a month ago, where I wouldn't say like by any means like my business partnership was falling off. That's not what I'm saying, but I did feel like it was starting to like maybe just create like a little bit of staleness. And I think it was because we weren't having as many conversations as frequently. And then there was one night where we had a pretty long conversation, probably like 2 hours-ish, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit more. And like all these new ideas and visions had been coming to life for me, and I just like passionately shared them with him with the massive conviction. And I felt like that conversation just really shifted
things. Yeah.
And so that's why I continue to stay on the thread of even what you were mentioning earlier, is like continuing to innovate and keep that vision alive and continue to communicate that vision.
Yeah.
Because if people really understand like the true depths of why we're doing what we're doing, that's when they're more bought in.
Yep. I need to do a better job at that, like communicating our values and our vision and mission and all that kind of stuff to everybody across the company. Like some people are just going to be like, all right, whatever, dude. But other people are going to be like, okay, let's do this. And I just, it's a communication thing, just an area of opportunity for me.
So let me ask you this, and this could be like a few of the last final questions that I have, but like what is like the deep vision that you have for, maybe it's Cabana Boys, maybe it's for the new company. I know you wanted to mention that too. I want to hear a little bit more about that. But like, and I think this ties in too well, and this is a question I often ask, is like, what are people saying at your funeral? And like, what is that deep vision that you have for your life and the people that you're serving?
So for my life, I have this kind of saying, to live life with an exclamation point. I actually have an exclamation point tattooed on my back.
I like that.
And I'm not the most like in-your-face boisterous guy. I'm pretty stoic, I'm pretty quiet. But I feel that like in what I do, I show people that there's like a lot of life to live. And whether it's starting a business and creating memories with Cabana Boys, whether it's travel, whatever it is, life is super short, and you never know what's going to happen. And so like, again, it's cliche, but live like you're dying. Like, make sure that doesn't mean that you're doing all the things on your bucket list today, but it is living an intentional life, knowing that any day could be your last. And so I think if my deep vision is to create security for my family, it's to live life with an exclamation point, it's to have fun, it's to enjoy it. I think I get caught up sometimes in like the data and all the little things, and making sure I meditate today and making sure I do this and that and that. I wear a Whoop. And I've thought about, I love this thing, but I've thought about taking it off and like not doing it anymore, because it's like I'm hooked to the data and what my recovery score is, and like it's great, but I'm not a professional athlete. And I like seeing my sleep score, but I'm like, today I'm 36% recovered, and will that change my behavior today? No, it's not going to do anything. So I think that Cabana Boys is like the perfect thing for me right now, and creating those memories, helping other people live their lives with an exclamation point, whether it be my customers or my employees. But in the future, like I just want to try something different and new, and I've thought about getting into real estate. I've thought about a a couple different sports-related companies. Just something fun, something I really enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all that.
Yeah.
I've never heard the exclamation point. That describes it well.
Thanks.
And I resonate with what you're talking about the Whoop band. I used to have a Oura ring, and it's funny because people would ask me, what's my favorite thing about the Oura ring? And I said, it's a conversation starter.
Oh, yeah.
It's great, and I actually left it at an Airbnb, and we were a couple minutes away, but I was kind of
Just left it.
I think I'm ready to be done with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can get caught in the data.
Yeah.
We can just the structure and I have to meditate, I have to do this. But just like what you said, it sounds like, because I've been hearing it several times throughout this conversation and the fact that you started a company surrounding fun,
Yeah.
I imagine that's one of your highest values.
It is.
And
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful, man. And I just think there's so much beauty in just fun.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have to be so serious.
It doesn't. And, there's very serious things in life, and you shouldn't take them lightly in most cases. But at the end of the day, we're on a rock flying through outer space.
Bunch of monkeys.
Right. It's just, let's just relax and have a good time. And that means different things to different people. So it's not to say my definition of that is the right one, but
Right.
Some people may find a lot of joy in meditating every day, all day, and that's their fun. But I think if you're just doing something that you like and brings you that joy, that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah. I'm so on board with that. I had a friend, changed my perspective a little bit, because I think, especially in entrepreneurship, for people and it's almost embedded into the culture, which I'm kind of having this awakening from the entrepreneur community or industry. It's very hustle grind driven.
Yeah.
Where it's you gotta go, you gotta suffer for 10 years of your life before you can even experience 1 ounce of joy. I've literally saw a video of someone explaining that exactly. I'm
Yeah.
I don't know if I subscribe to that, but I've been there.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you're in a startup and you're building things and it's taking time to build, which it has for us, I feel I've been stressed a lot. I feel
Yeah.
I've put a lot of pressure on it. But now I'm just I'm not about that. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's also comes from being intentional with that. Something I ask a lot of people these days, I'd be curious to hear what your answer is, but what makes you belly laugh?
I haven't been doing that enough lately, honestly, Nico. That's a great question. There's a couple of my friends that they're just old friends, the people that you have a lot of context and history with, and the two of them probably make me to laugh the most. And just when we get together, it's just we're retelling old stories and just comparing our current lives to lives in the past, and that makes me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
I think that the more you can relate to something, the more the more I can relate to something, the more I can really find a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
I think there's different types of laughter where it's the belly laugh that's very relatable, and then there's the laugh I don't want anything to do with that laughter. Yeah, just kind of I went to the Phoenix Open.
Did you?
A couple weekends ago, and it was just I'm not drinking right now. I'm doing 75 hard,
Nice.
and which is challenging, but there's just so many drunk people, and that I've been there too, and I probably will be there again. But I'm just laughing at people just slipping in the mud, and some of the. I mean, I'm in my 30s now. Some of the fashion choices of these Gen Z people, I'm just oh my gosh, I feel like a old man saying that, but yeah, you evolve.
Yeah, it's funny. When I ask that question, usually that's a similar answer. Is it's these certain people you have relationships with, and you just bring up old stories. And,
Yeah.
But I just think laughter is medicine.
100%
If
is.
more people were laughing and just
Yes.
like hysterically laughing throughout the day,
Yeah.
like this world would be incredible.
I completely agree with that. I wish it would happen more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been awesome. Did you want to share a little bit about the new brand?
Yeah. So we just started a new brand called the Cocktail Crew.
Okay.
So Cabana Boys, I'll kind of go over it. So we have 4 brands that are party hosting. Cabana Boys, which is in Scottsdale, Palm Springs, and LA.
Okay.
And then we have Cocktail Cowboys, which is in Austin and Nashville.
Okay.
And Cocktail Boys, which is in Savannah and Charleston.
Okay.
And we have Cabana Girls here in Scottsdale too.
Oh, okay.
All of them are catering to what we've been talking about this whole time: bachelorette parties, birthdays, pool parties, like more kind of the fun, rowdy events.
So the Cabana, you said Cabana Girls?
Yeah,
So that's for bachelorette parties?
bachelor parties.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I thought.
yeah. The model's a little bit different there, where the Cabana Boys parties we send 2 guys. Cabana Girls parties we send 3 girls and a Cabana Boy.
Okay.
A little bit more safety in numbers. Guys are jerks, so I just want to make sure everybody's feeling safe.
Yeah.
But we just started a new brand called the Cocktail Crew. So Cocktail Crew is more traditional bartending. It's weddings, it's corporate events, charity functions, retirement parties, birthdays, like really any event that, we are dressed nicer, slacks, black polo. We bring a full bar toolkit. Like it's much more like focus on the drinks versus like the party. I'm excited about that because 1, we can now service any type of event, like you name it. If you want drinks served, we can be there. And 2, like while the Cabana Boys, the party hosting brands, are really focused on bachelorette cities, Cocktail Crew theoretically can go anywhere. Chicago, New York, Denver, Dallas, like huge cities, but they're not really popular for bachelorettes. We could still theoretically go there. So I'm excited about the growth potential of that. And it's brand new. I mean, we launched in Scottsdale and Palm Springs in November, and we just launched in those other 5 cities on February 1st. So it's still very, very new, but I'm stoked. I think it's gonna be big.
That's cool, man. Yeah, it seems like it's almost like the next evolution.
Yep.
Where it's just like, seems like there's just a little bit more of a professional vibe to it.
Totally.
So it's like you're transitioning a little bit out of the
Right.
party scene into like.
It's like my life almost.
Yeah, I think it transitions nicely.
Yeah.
Cool, brother. Well, dude, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise.
I think we've covered an array of topics.
Definitely.
This is what I like to do at the end of my podcast now, usually, is open it up for the person I'm interviewing. Is there any asks that you have? Whether that's from me, anybody listening,
Yeah.
or even just anything that you want people to take away from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious thing is like if you have a party coming up, book us. Whether any of those brands I just mentioned, that'd be great. But I think more importantly, like if you have an idea, go for it. Life's too short for you to sit on it, and it's okay to fail. Like your idea might sound great to you right now, but 6 months down the road, you might realize it doesn't have a lot of legs. But at least you tried. At least you gave it your all for a short amount of time and figured out that maybe it was not the right thing, and you can move on to something else. But I think that you would kick yourself if you never tried.